Hello goblins, it's Chris, Eldritch Pipes. It's episode 3 in the Pipe Maker series, and today we're heading to Germany because we're looking at the pipe maker Uwe Maier. Uwe is a absolutely fascinating pipe maker. Couldn't be more different than the other pipe makers we've looked at so far. In fact, the German pipe makers, in my opinion, could almost require a section in themselves because they have broken the mould in what it means to make a pipe in a number of areas, actually. And as we come across them, I'm going to point them out. But the other factor is that they actually meet up. They sort of cross-pollinate ideas. And obviously the ideas that really work well for them, they all start adopting. So they not only have their own individual style, but you can see these unique features coming out on all their pipes, which is a really fascinating, beautiful thing. So they really have a section of pipe making that is all their own. But today it's Uwe Maier, so let us begin. All right. So this is a pipe in what I'm going to call his ironwork series. Uwe really plays with the idea of the materials, and so he has some shapes that you see used in a number of different ways, but he will work different material looks into them. And his favourite seems to be this kind of metal work, a kind of a steampunk look. And so this whole first batch of pipes that we're going to look at are all in the ironwork series. And then we'll move on to see other looks that he does. But this first pipe really embodies like a boatload of stuff that he does. So first of all, you can see it's a kind of, it's got this iron material, kind of like a rusted iron look to it. Now, just the colouring itself, nothing happens, no colour gets on there by accident, it's put on there. And so like these, you're going to see over and over these kind of like layers of colour that are so unique. And colour plays a really important part in all of his work as well. But you can see how he has really worked hard to give the impression of this pipe being made from rusty metal. It's got like these rusted fissures down the side of the bowl. The metal itself is like corroded and almost coming apart. And this pipe contains another feature as well, which as I show the second image you'll see. It's modular. Now I don't know if this is Uwe's idea. I know that the first instance I saw it in was in a Christian Wolfenstein pipe. Christian Wolfsteiner, sorry. And later on we'll see Uwe sort of paying homage to that style. And he always credits Christian when he does it. This is either a version of that or this is his own design. In either case, this is like almost like the idea of a Lego pipe. It's like put the bowl where you want it, how you feel today. So it both works as a straight and it works as like a full bent. And so we're going to see also this idea of more complex drillings that we'll come to when we get there. This is just a picture, then you can see all the pipe in its separate parts. So I'm not sure if in this version the shank part is a calabash, but sometimes they make the second part, this shank part, a calabash as well. The other part I want you to notice is the textured stem. That is really unique to these guys. Might even be unique to Uwe, but a textured stem is a really unique approach. You can see he's polished the button, so the actual bit that is going to go in your mouth is polished, but all the rest of it serves this illusion of this corroded old pipe. And you can also see it takes a filter, because using a filter is really popular in Europe. Okay, so this second pipe, now you can see that this is almost totally rusted. You can see the textured stem, and this is like a mega full bent. You would notice that there's no way to really drill this pipe normally, but they're not bothered. What they do is they drill down, and then, whereas everywhere else in the world we'd probably be scratching our head how to sort of like drill down through the chamber, perhaps, as a way to make the airway meet up. They just go in from the side, and then they plug that hole with something. And in this case, the perfect solution is another bit of metal work to just add to the illusion that we're looking at something mechanical or some engineering part. And you've got to pay attention to the colours going on. It's not just one colour. You can see it comes back, goes like from dark brown, then there's pockets of like brighter orange, because this material it's a real material. He's making you believe it's a real material, and it's not just a flat colour, but there are areas that are darker, there are areas that are lighter. This rusting is completely natural. Pay attention to the bolts in the side, and have a think about whether that's wood he's carved that then coloured with like maybe a brass coloured wax or something, or just have a think about how you think he might have achieved that, because that's going to feed into another element that we're going to talk about when we get there. All right. Like this is just a mega piece. Obviously, we're still working with the metalwork idea. We've got the illusion of one pipe kind of piercing another. The colouring is just so authentic. You know, it's dark underneath, but then rubbed back, and you've got bits of like a vibrant orange rust, and then bits where it's going from a dark rust to a lighter thing. And then if you notice around all the bolts, there's discoloration just around them. You know, the rust of one metal sort of leaching into another. Really great. And then on the second image, just noticing it's the textured stem again. Although no doubt, I don't have a shot of the button, but that would be polished. All right, and then a big guy. This is all those elements coming in again, but It's like now instead of the pieces being made of one part, now we're looking at like sheets of metal being wrapped around each other. You can see that double drilling, like, and then blocked off with that like cog piece, whatever that is. Like lots of these punctured brass rivets. This is a really great piece as well, this second one. It's like really tortured, what is it? Sort of a pot, but it's like has a pot somewhere in its DNA, but it's something else entirely. It's like really playing with the idea of this pot. The metal has been tortured. It's split on one side. I'm looking at the bottom image at the moment, where there's this amazing coloration again. It's going from dark orange rust to sort of lighter rust that's been revealed when the older rust flaked off, to then this a green, kind of like a copper patina kind of thing going on. And the whole shank has been like wrenched like 45 degrees or something. And then the stem itself sort of bending back the other way. So much attention to detail on the colouring. I'm just looking at the top image there. And then on the other side, so where the shank has burst from the pipe on one side, the metal has crumpled on the other, obviously. And Uwe has not missed that detail at all. In fact, he's kind of delighting in being able to put all of this detail in, showing how this imaginary metal would look if this had actually happened to it. It's just like the material study is just something else. And then all the coloration that goes on top. All right. I recall now this one is called Split. You can sort of see why. So this is emulating now a corroded copper. It's got lots of that copper patina on it. Don't ask me how he has made that effect. We are going to talk about colour in a little bit, because the German pipe makers specifically have a tool at their disposal that is that serves them very well for colour. And a lot of I don't know who discovered / invented the process, but several of them use it to great effect. But you can see that the copper has been ripped down the side, and then the rip continues into the stem. That's super cool. Then a little close-up shot. This is like a steampunk proper now. So we've gone like from metalwork into steampunk. So we've got like discs and rivets with tubes coming off that obviously have some important function. This stovepipe is really interesting as well. Just the way it kind of like kinks in these sections. And it's obviously black with soot. Right. Okay, so we saw that modular pipe at the beginning. But this particular design, the kind of like the shapes of the pieces themselves, as well as the concept of it being modular, is, I think, a Christian Wolfsteiner concept. Certainly, Uwe Maier always credits Christian when he makes these pipes. I think he calls them T10. I don't know the significance of that, but there you go. So then you can see this pipe in different configurations. And then the pipe in all of its different pieces there. You know, and then you just see again all the detail in the coloration, how the material compresses or dings where the rivets have gone in, like been over tightened. And the textured stem again. And in fact, I think the connection piece is, I'm not absolutely certain, but I think it's ebonite. It's likely to be ebonite. Okay, and this is the reveal. Did you guess that the rivets were actual rivets added to the pipe? I don't think there's any way. You'd have to have a good eye to see that. Before I saw these pictures, I was imagining like a metallic paint going on, so him carving the shapes. But no, you can see he's got tiny nuts and bolts that are going into the woodwork, which I think is really cool. So we're moving on. We're out of the metalwork. We're going to start looking at some other stuff. I say stuff because it's kind of like his visual interest is quite wide-ranging, so we're going to be going all over the place. He does settle on a few places where we see a greater quantity of pipes in certain styles, like the ironwork. He really enjoys the steampunk ironwork look, but he enjoys some others as well, and does a lot of work in other looks. This one is a kind of pipe creature. So like you can see it's got a shell at the back, on its back, on the underside, and then the seat, and then the pipe creature is sort of like nestling within it. I've seen quite a few of these. There are a few variations on his site. And it's always a really interesting look. It's kind of evolved. I think in this version, the pipe creature is very pipe-like. But in other versions, they're more grub-like. But you see the textured stem again, that's going to remain a constant feature. But also, it's the colour as well. So he's really splitting the pipe, not just in two different textures, the shell and the pipe creature, but also separating them with colour, so that the shell is green, the pipe creature is a kind of chestnut brown. So it's like really, that contrast just really grabs your eye. On that top down, you can see he's kind of like separated the rim out. So it gives you like this idea of there being something inside. And that is another concept that we're going to see a lot of. He really plays with this idea of there being like internal structure to a pipe that's got almost like a skeleton sometimes inside with an outer wrapping. You're going to see those ideas come up. But also you can see on that pipe creature, as it bends up with the pipe, its kind of skin or its leather wrapping, wrinkles, and so he's able to play with that look, add that extra realism, which is really great. Okay, this is called Bondage for obvious reasons, and like the detail. So it's like this pipe is made of some kind of leathery material, not maybe not quite as, it's more like a sofa, like a cushiony sofa covered in leather or something like that. And you can see like all the wrinkles where it's all been squished and squashed, and it's sort of like bulging out. And what I do know, maybe you've guessed by now, but the wire that is binding the pipe is real wire. So that's kind of, it's not part of the carving. It's like he carves its path and then wraps wire into that channel. So it's just really just pushes the concept. It's not a little bit bound, it's a lot bound. I think there's two versions there. In fact, that second version is really great because you can see it's like, you can see the rim of the pipe is slightly distorting, but its outer wrapping is kind of really distorted because it's, you know, being so scrunched up. See how the top of the rim on the bowl matches that rim around the shank where the stem's going in. So really giving you this idea that there's like this internal pipe structure around which this fabric is wrapped, and then the whole thing being crushed by this wire. This is really nice. I think this one is called Confused, because this time it's wood emulating two kinds of wood. We're getting that sort of like full double drill. You can see the stopper at that end. I think it looks like a metal one. And so we've got a dark wood with some other kind of wood, but they're both, one sort of twists into the other. There's no hard break. They kind of like just, that's where the confused idea, one wood becoming another wood. Where are we going next? Oh yes. I can't remember what the name for this one is. It might just be called Fold or Bend. But you can see like the idea behind it is like a straight pipe that has kind of like been folded up. And so you get this kind of this folding detail that is trying to emulate as much as possible this kind of what would look like if you could sort of like soften it and fold it. It's really crazy. Oh yeah. Another modular pipe, this time in some kind of like fantastic structure. So Uwe does go into the kind of fantasy at times. Obviously he likes to do these like material studies, but as we look at some later ones, he does push into the fantasy with like dragon scales and that kind of thing. And to my mind, this is sort of like pushing into the fantasy. It's almost like a sea creature, like if you know those volcanic vents on the seabed, this is like something that would live there. It's the double drilling is stoppered by something that looks like coral, and the stem is made from this sort of same material. Just did a close up on that stop. It really does look like a piece of coral to me. All right. Okay, another material study. This time the material is denim. And it introduces a new concept. that is stitching. So in order to really sell, I mean, first of all, let's just look at the denim, because the denim effect is just wild. Because I don't know if you know, but like denim is stained with indigo. Indigo is a, what's the word? But it rubs off slowly. That's why creases in denim get lighter as the indigo flakes off. It's just what happens in denim. And you can see that Uwe has just like, wherever there's a fold, it goes lighter, and in those dips, it stays darker, where obviously the material doesn't move, so the indigo stays dark, and it's really, the attention to detail is pretty high here. And then to sell it even further, there's actual stitching going around the edge of the pipe. So yeah, that's not a carved detail. It's actual, he's hand stitched the briar. It's just a side view. So you can see the two panels of denim stitched together. That makes sense of the stitching. I was going to say you can't stitch it to itself. I suppose you could stitch it to itself. And then it's on a little foot as well. I don't know if that foot serves any other function. Maybe it's just there as a decorative element. Again, this one almost, actually it reminds me of a Nautilus pipe, the kind of shaping on it. But obviously this one's rendered in denim. And it seems to be filled, this Nautilus pipe seems to be filled with a cork material. Maybe it's just another kind of wood. Another folded pipe, but this time now we've got I guess it must be like a leather material. And inside it's got this kind of honeycomb centre. Just looking at the top-down view, so you can see the end of the shank emulating the rim of the bowl. This is a really fun one, this knotted pipe. I don't even know how you'd begin to plan that one out. But the illusion is sold pretty well. I'm looking at this from a number of views. It's, yeah, obviously you have to figure out where all your lines are going to go before you start on something like that. But it looks like it's been knotted so tightly it might not even smoke. I'm sure it does. This one, you'll be unsurprised to hear, is called Stretch. And this is a really expertly rendered idea. First of all, the concept is just great. Like this pipe being pulled apart. But it's kind of gluey in the centre. I don't know. But it's just a really nice effect. And just like looking in to all the detail that you have to go in and carve, because there's no tool markings in there. It has to get sanded out. It's a lot of painstaking sanding. You can get some small sanding tools in there, maybe with a rotary tool for some of the work, but some of it you'd have to get rolls of sandpaper in there, and that's going to take you some time. This is a funny one. This is quite humorous. I think this is called Sag or something to that effect, where it looks like the outside of the pipe is hanging off whatever the inside of the pipe is made of. You can see it's like folds of material. It's just like it's almost like it's got some kind of sock on the outside. It's just like limply hanging off. And a kind of sea creature. Well, seashell, I suppose. It's worth noting here, I didn't mention it at the denim, but I'll mention it now. Briar is never this pale. They have found a way to lighten the colour of briar until it's just about white, which is a really interesting thing. But it allows them to colour pipes really vibrantly. Because obviously on normal briar, when you put a red colour on or yellow, it goes several shades darker and gets pushed into the yellow, because that's the colour of briar, a kind of yellowy orange, more or less. If you can put your colour onto a white canvas, you get a much more vibrant colour and a truer representation of the colour that you've just put on. It doesn't shove the colour into the yellow or the orange, as it may be. There's all kinds of colouring going on that pipe. Again, you can sort of see colouring sort of like falling into the grooves. These like speckles of bright orange against a pale green. It's very subtle. I picked this next one just because this time the pipe is wood, of all things. But it's cracked. And there's this like really nasty looking crack that would give any pipe maker, a sleepless night. But obviously here, it's a carved floor. And that's just really, it's deeply unnerving. But it's very good. Oh, and still in the rim, still continuing the idea of like a separate element going on inside the pipe or inside the bowl. Then there's this old wood series. This is really nice. So obviously it's a double drilling. Then you've got the texture to make it look like several planks of really weathered wood. And then using the double drilling to look like you've just bolted the lot together. It's a really chunky, old looking pipe. But look at the colouring, like the way that there's these like streaks of rich brown, but it's all then it really fades out really fast in a really textured way. So you can almost see what the colour of the wood used to be, but now it's really sun faded and eroded. And there's this mental piece where it looks like the wood is like completely bent over. It's probably been heated and then bent under pressure. Not really, obviously. Just made to look like that. Just really nice. Really nice colour. So it's it's a rich oaky mahogany, isn't it? Really nice. This one is kind of Uwe's sense of humour. I can't remember what this one's called. It might be called Breakout or something like that. He's using his stitched exterior effect to have someone breaking out. Just disturbing, the idea of somebody being in the pipe. A little close up of that, see the detail on the fingers. Paint tubes. I think these might have done a full set of paint tubes actually. I know I've seen a blue one, so there's definitely obviously the red and the yellow one here, where the caps are the pipe bowls, but then each one gets coloured differently depending on the paint that's inside. This pit texture is extraordinary. Just the way, so we get these like ball cutters, and obviously they're quite good for creating these little cavities, but that's not what a peach pit is. I think it even did like an example photo at the side of one. You know, it's like, it is, but it's smooth, so it's really painstaking making sure that all the work is smoothed out. It's not just tool marks, and dragging it out as well, because the shapes in the peach pit aren't just dots, they're these sort of mini crater-like things that blend with the top surface. You know, it's not just a hard cut, it's all blended in. And then the colouring as well. This is a nice little visual of the inside of the pipe breaking out from the covering that was trying to contain it. And again, kind of the colour cues as well. So the outside wrapping being this rich green, the inside being a almost molten, isn't it, like going red to bright orange, a deep red to bright orange. Another pierced effect, this time with a back panel of metal. So not only do you have, so now you can like combining materials, so you have this like leather or leather covered steak crushing through the bowl, and then out the back it's all hard cracks and stiff bends of the metal, and then rivets going into the side. It's what we called Sledgehammer actually, but I don't know why. This is one of the dragon pieces I was mentioning. So it's not like a distinct creature. It's more like a kind of pipe creature. And you got these like scales, but they're so sort of, there's this like gap between them so you can see sort of like the fleshy inside, or the more vulnerable skin underneath. I just really like how these like scale panels sort of fit together. You know, they like, it's the little details like how the material curls where it meets kind of thing. Oh yeah, and included the stem as the tail. All these pipes fall into this kind of like stitched fabric, but I thought it was worth showing these kind of like different pipe shapes, because that's quite an unusual one, with these kind of like, you know, panels of fabric on the rim and panels of fabric on the shank. Just a really cool look. And you can see how the fabric pleats on the rim, where the stitches kind of like make the fabric crumple. This was a really interesting material study. Don't know if it was meant to be a meteorite, but it's a rock or possibly a fossil. Hard to say. There's a newspaper piece there, but it's in German and I can't read it. But it looks like it's possibly something meteoric, but it's a weird shape. You can see how it's just totally copied that shape for a pipe. Just saw that in a newspaper and went, I'll make a pipe. And then just little close-up detail. See, I mean, it just looks like stone or some kind of like really a piece of pitted metal ingot. I don't know. It's a weird one. This is another pipe creature. You just got to pay attention to like all the layers that's going on here. What is a pipe? A pipe is, well, I suppose any physical object. It's shape, texture, and colour. And every aspect gets attention here. The shape is just wild. It's obviously into a fantasy type thing. It's got a tooth at the bottom. This is like a dragonling thing, but then it's a bit weird as well. It's a bit plant-like. But then within the shape, you have all the texture detail, and in that, all the fine colouring as well. It's just smooth shank end as well. Just so much going on. Now, one element I didn't talk about was I talked about how the mouthpiece was polished right at the end, but the rest of it was textured, and that he uses that on almost all of his pipes. I think I might have seen one pipe that had a polished stem, but usually it's textured. The element that I wanted to draw attention to is that the slot on the stem is a style that they developed and they pretty much all use, I think, where the slot actually runs the entire length of the button. So the button doesn't close around the sides. The slot cuts right across, which is just like this unique touch that both makes Uwe Maier's work distinctive, but makes the German pipe makers' work distinctive as well. I'm not saying that they all use it. I'm just saying it's a common element that you do see pop up. And when we look at other German pipe makers, we will no doubt see it there as well. I'll point it out when we do. All right. That was a fascinating look at a fascinating pipe maker. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, do comment below. Knowing that you enjoyed it gives me a reason to make the next one. So, until next time, take it very easy, the loyal pipe maker.